Alright, so I need to get in the headspace to talk about Doom. That ought to do it.
Doom 2016 is by far one of my favorite shooters, but I do have some complaints with it. In this video, I'm going to complain about some of the problems I had with Doom 2016, despite loving the game overall, and talk about my thoughts going into Doom Eternal. So I'm going to fire up Doom, get some gameplay for the background of this video, and you're probably seeing it now anyway, but let's get right into this. I don't want to waste too much time, so first thing that I sort of didn't like about Doom 2016 was its very samey landscapes. Doom had a color palette of gray, brown, orange, red. And while, yeah, that sort of fits the Doom aesthetic, it got old to me after a while. Now, even though I love the first BioShock game, I actually have a very similar complaint about that game. While some locations are stand out, so much of where you are is so samey, and I like to have a lot of visual variety in my games. Especially in games that are heavily based in fiction, I sort of like some variety and some intrigue there, and Doom eventually just sort of wears out its welcome with some of its scenery. Its scenery makes sense for the world and the game, and I can't really complain about it, but in my opinion, nothing really stands out to me when it comes to Doom 2016's overall visual design. It's a very pretty game, it's a very thematic game, like accurately thematic game, but that doesn't stop it from feeling sort of samey. Next thing was the overall lack of story and direction. I knew what I was doing, I understood the plot, but the plot was so simplistic and the gameplay came so far first that I actually feel like some potential was lost. I don't understand the people that say that they're glad that Doom 2016 didn't focus on story because it made for better gameplay, when I've played plenty of video games that have good story and good gameplay. A great example would be Wolfenstein: A New Order. The campaign sort of falls apart for me towards the end, but I still found it to be a way more enjoyable experience story-wise than Doom 2016. I'm okay with a silent, badass protagonist. I am okay with telling the story through the world and not through cutscenes, but I just wanted a bit more. Again, I don't get the idea that a Doom game needs to just be about shooting demons and story can go take a back seat in the go fuck yourself car. I don't understand that. I get that you might not mind the lack of story, but some people were saying, I remember back when this game came out, that they were glad it didn't focus on story, whereas I think I would have liked the game more and appreciated it more, and more of it would have stuck in my head if it wasn't sort of just a slog through demons, and that brings me to my next complaint. Doom 2016 is pretty freaking repetitive. To the people that say, well, that's just the design of it, that's the point, it's supposed to be about this one thing. But that, in my opinion, is sort of fanboy logic. You're not allowed to criticize the game because that's how the game is supposed to be. Sorry, that, for me at least, that's not how video game criticism works. I understand the design choice, that's what I'm critiquing in the first place. The design choice to have very little story, lots of demon shooting action, some exploration for upgrades and power-ups and Easter eggs, and that sort of being it. There are some standout locations, but for the most part, generally, we're not doing a giant deep dive here, guys. Doom 2016 was pretty damn repetitive and pretty samey in terms of its appearance. I know it might be sacrilege to say that, but I'm sorry. No matter how fun a game is repetitive. Like Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite video games, but I'll admit that elements of it get very repetitive. It's just that the nature of the repetitiveness in Kingdom Hearts is broken up with cutscenes and a complicated story, visually diverse worlds, and the way the Kingdom Hearts games work is that you want to find enemies, you want to keep beating up enemies over and over again because of how much more powerful you become when you grind, and grinding's just sort of essential. Especially on harder difficulties where you don't want to be left behind when you get to the more endgame stuff. Whereas Doom 2016 would just put me in a room and say, don't die, and then I'd move forward through a couple corridors, find some stuff, and then put me in a corridor and lock the doors and be like, don't die, and then lock the doors and then don't die, and it just sort of got old to me after a while. I actually ended up, with my first playthrough of Doom 2016, I ended up stopping, like halfway through the game, and I took like a 3-month break from it. I had sort of seen everything there was to see, and I still stand by that. And also, other games are coming out, which is the bigger reason. But for the most part, I just felt like the game was getting very samey, and I could do without playing it over and over again every night. It would have been a lot harder to pull me away from Doom 2016 if there was more diverse environments, more diverse gameplay, and a more interesting, intricate story. Doom 2016 to me, and this is the hottest take in this video, always felt like 3/4 of a game. very solid mechanically, but missing the frills and things that break up gameplay and sort of, make me excited for the next mission and make me excited to continue the story and see what happens. And these are the things that excite me about Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal seems to have a greater focus on story, more diverse locations, and more diverse gameplay. On top of that, sprinkle some amazing music and airtight gameplay mechanics on top of that, and Doom Eternal might feel like 4/4 of a game, a full game, a game that might keep me coming back every night until I beat it. Now, videos about Doom Eternal are going to range on this channel. I'm going to do some live streams. I'm going to cover some of the weapons. If you guys like that, I might continue and cover just all of the weapons. After the first several missions, I'm going to do a first impressions video. After I beat the game, I'm going to review the game. And I might stream it on a really hard difficulty later on just to see how much my ass can get kicked. Let me know what you think down below. What kind of videos should I make about Doom Eternal? I'm really excited for it because it looks like it's going to remedy all of the problems I had with 2016, but hopefully at the same time keeps what made 2016 fun in the first place, because it is a very fun game, even if it sort of lacked in some areas that I would have preferred it didn't in. So anyway, let me know what you think down below, and I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.